Hi everyone, we're live once again. Right now I have Tom Wilkie with me, who is the co-founder of Kausal, right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So I know that one of your passions is brewing beer.
That's right.
And Lviv has like two main drinks are, I don't know, popular in Lviv: coffee and beer. Have you had a chance to drink some local beer?
I have, yes. No, we went to Pravda,
yeah,
the beer
yeah,
theatre
yeah.
last night.
Okay.
They had four beers on tap that they'd brewed there.
Yeah.
And tried all of them. Absolutely fantastic, really good. And
Okay.
it's really nice to see somewhere brewing its own beer and serving it.
Okay. I know a couple of places where you should go during the, I don't know, today after
Excellent.
party or something, yeah. But let's go back to what you're doing right now. So you just, during the quick chat we had before, you mentioned that you've co-founded Kausal.
That's right.
Kausal, right?
Kausal, yeah. Kausal,
okay.
Kausal.
Sorry. So, what do you do? How does it look like to start a company? And yeah, please tell me more.
Starting your own tech
Maybe let's start with a bit what Kausal does.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Kausal is a platform for developers, a service for developers to instrument and observe the behavior of their applications.
Okay.
So we offer a hosted version of Prometheus, the monitoring system that was the second project accepted by the CNCF. And we're developing our own log aggregation and distributed tracing system.
Okay.
The idea being that this is a single portal where developers can log in, can see all the metrics associated with their application, drill down into those metrics, and then seamlessly switch over to looking at the logs for those relevant metrics, and similarly switch over to look for the traces relevant to those logs and metrics. So one kind of place to have everything about your application and really kind of start joining together these disparate data sources.
Yeah. How does it look like to, I don't know, co-found a company? I haven't co-founded anything myself.
Oh, you should give it a go. It's a lot of fun. This is the second startup I've started.
Okay.
A long time ago, I started a company called Akunu, which was one of the Cassandra startups. And it's different every time. It's challenging. Akunu was a venture capital-backed startup, so we raised, I think, $10 million.
Okay.
Built a big team, tried to sell an enterprise product, experienced lots of challenges,
Yeah.
but eventually had a good outcome. We're doing it very differently at Kausal, so we're bootstrapping it.
Okay.
We're not interested in raising any venture capital. I'm doing it with my co-founder David. We're developing the software as we go, and we're funding the software development by doing consulting. So I'm out on customer sites, helping them install and use and training them on how to query Prometheus. I'm helping customers deploy Kubernetes and effectively doing anything that will pay me a wage, so that in the rest of the week I can continue to develop the Kausal software.
Okay, it's just two of you, right?
It's just two of us right now. We hope to start hiring in the next kind of 3 to 6 months.
Do you have enough time to do all of that?
It's a challenge. Having enough time is definitely tricky. One of the things not having venture capital does is it focuses you. You can basically only, because you've only got a short amount of time to work on things, you can only do things that directly impact, your product and your customers' needs. So there's that kind of, being bootstrapped, living month to month and day to day, really, really focuses your mind on, is this actually going to help my customers? Is this actually going to help the business? And it really kind of culls off doing lots of things that you might otherwise do because of, because they're good. A good example, so most services have a user management system. They have some MySQL database with a list of users in, some salted hashed passwords, and, some accounts and so on. And then they have some kind of and then they have some kind of reverse proxy that does authentication. And this system is not hard to develop that kind of stuff, but it's time. So one of the things we did at Kausal is we didn't develop that. We used a third-party system called AuthRocket. And so this is kind of user management as a service. We just make call-outs to them to do authentication and so on. And it meant we got to market with the first version of our product in a month. And that meant we could start generating revenue much quicker than if we'd spent, a couple of weeks developing a user management service. Similarly, we use Google Cloud Platform. We use their hosted Kubernetes. So I haven't had to develop. In a previous life, I developed scripts to host and manage and maintain a Kubernetes cluster, but I've outsourced all of that to Google now. And it's just that pattern goes on. We don't. What's another good example? like our paging system, we just use something called VictorOps.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to develop the integrations between Prometheus and Twilio to do the paging. You know, whenever possible, we outsource stuff that's not core to our business, and it's not expensive. Most of these systems I'm talking about are kind of $10 a month, $20 a month when we're at this really small scale.
It adds up over time.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it does. I think the running costs for the company just about meet the revenue we've got right now, so we're kind of ramen profitable. But we're not paying ourselves a salary yet. So. But no, it has meant we're able to move quicker. We're able to respond to what our customers want quicker, and we're able to get to market with a product quicker.
How do you, one of the experiences I got is if you manage to get feedback as fast as possible, this means you're learning faster, like you're iterating faster, and you're not building stuff nobody needs.
Exactly.
How do you do that?
It's really tricky. We've been really open and honest with our customers about the position the company's in. So everyone knows we're bootstrapped. Everyone knows it's just David and I. Everyone knows we're trying this big experiment to see if we can build a big company like this. And by being open with them, we've also kind of engaged them in the process. So we said, look, you know, we're looking for customers who are going to put time and effort into the product, who are going to tell us what they need, who are going to spend time with us to help us build a product that they need, right? And in return, they get the product at a very attractive price, and they get, you know, a product really heavily
focused for them.
Focused, exactly, on what they need. And so far, customers have responded really well to this. Like, they really like to engage with a supplier, you know, on the day-to-day level. It's interesting because, for instance, we've been talking to some very large American companies about using our software, and you know, it potentially is much harder to have that kind of relationship with a large you know, Fortune 500 company. Right now, our customers are small tech startups like ourselves, where we can have that relationship. And I suspect for the first 10 or 20 customers, we'll keep to small guys who we can work with on a day-to-day basis, who we can build out the platform and build out the product until we're happy with the product, and then we can think about going after the bigger companies and scaling the company a bit more.
Cool.
I mean, practically, the way I interact with my customers is via Slack. We have a Slack channel.
For every customer?
All of our customers get invited to it. There's a room per customer. So there's lockdown, so each customer can't see each other.
Of course.
And we just ask them questions in that room, and they ask us questions, and that's how practically we interact with them. The whole company is completely decentralized and remote first. We don't have an office. I work from my home, David works from his home. He lives in Berlin, I live in London. So, you know, it's very kind of spread out, and I travel around onto customer sites to meet customers and talk to them like that.
What's your bigger goal with this?
So the bigger goal, I think, the goal is to build a tool that I would use. I'm a software engineer. And so I think dog fooding is incredibly important. And to close this feedback loop is, I want to build a piece of software that I want to use, that I would use. And so we're our number one user. We use our software to build our software. It's kind of nice and recursive. So I want to build a piece of software that I want to use. I want to make building software in general easier. And more specifically, I want to make running software at scale in production easier. You know, it can be incredibly tricky for a lot of new startups. They start out and they spend the first couple of years developing, you know, and installing open source packages and getting their infrastructure working, just so that they can then spend time developing their actual software. And this is ridiculous. You know, you shouldn't as a startup have an infrastructure team dedicated to building out your software infrastructure, right? You should be, in my opinion, you should be buying that because it's not your core value. Your core value is somewhere else. And so I want to be the guy providing that. I want to come along in a very cost-effective, you know, very reasonable price. I want to be able to come in and say, I'll provide your monitoring, I'll provide your log aggregation, I'll provide your tracing, and it'll all be in
request tracing.
Yeah, so like distributed request tracing, like DFUA, or Zipkin, or the new one that's come out from, is it Lyft? Called Envoy. Is it Lyft? Or is it
Envoy, Lyft. It was from Lyft.
Not Envoy. That's the.
But Envoy is different.
Envoy's their request gateway. Their proxy. I'm thinking Jaeger. Jaeger is the latest one. I can't remember if it was Lyft or Uber released it. But so, and I want to bring these things together so that I can give a joined up story. And generally, like our focus right now is on instant response. So it's when something's gone wrong. You know, a lot of the stories that developers tell us is, I get a page in the middle of the night, and I'm like, okay, First, I go and check my dashboards.
Yeah.
And then from my dashboards, I can see, oh, maybe it's this service that's misbehaving, and I jump into the monitoring system and I refine some queries and really identify maybe what instance or replica of that service is misbehaving. But then I have to pop all the way back out again and go into my log aggregation system and kind of construct a query myself, translate the query I had into my log system so that I can see the logs for that instance of that service that's misbehaving. And I want to make that process easier. I want it to be seamless, like, you know, not even a click of a button to be able to switch between metrics and logs for a given, application or service.
I have another question for you. So, in your ideal company, imaginable ideal company, what the DevOps process should look like?
I think, I don't want to think of it as a DevOps process.
Okay.
Because I don't think, you know, a DevOps process is making an exception from what I think should be the rule. Right? It shouldn't be the DevOps process, it should be the development process. It should just be how we build software. Google does this very well. I spent 2 years at Google, and this is where I learned most about DevOps and their culture.
Okay.
And most developers at Google hold a pager, you know, and go on Google, and are responsible for their software in production. And I think that's incredibly important. So in Causal, every developer is going to hold a pager. Every developer is going to be responsible for production as well as development.
Yeah.
And I expect developers to see features through end to end. So you know, let's say I'm adding a new way of searching my log system.
Yeah. Okay.
Just hypothetical. You know, I would expect a developer to own that project, to run it through to completion, all the way through to deployment, to deal with whatever upgrade process that might be necessary, to deal with any of the backwards compatibility issues, and generally be a well-rounded developer, not just with their blinkers on, just writing code and then throwing it over the wall to someone else. And then I expect them to take part in the infrastructure side of things as well. As I said, we don't have a huge amount of infrastructure to manage because we've outsourced it to Google and to other companies, but we still, you know, we still have jobs, we still have to plug things together, and we use things like HashiCorp Terraform to do that. We use this new project from Heptio called Ksonnet, which manages our Kubernetes config for us, and really powerful, and I would expect every developer to be able to dive into that. And in Causal especially, I'd expect every developer to be very comfortable, you know, looking into the instrumentation, looking into the monitoring, diagnosing performance issues, using distributed tracing to see long-tail latency issues and things like this. You know, I just think you need, you know, as a developer, you can't just be focused on the only thing I do is writing code, because writing code is such a small part of the actual job of being a software engineer and a developer. You know, and looking after the applications, dealing with the, you know, the growth and capacity planning of them, and dealing with the whole life cycle of your code is so much more than just writing it.
Okay. We're also using Slack
Great.
in the team I am right now, and there is this hot term called ChatOps. Have you, I don't know, do you write any bots for your customers, or have you had any, I don't know, funny stories with that?
Funny stories of ChatOps.
So that you can, I don't know, have a do you think it's like a good idea to redeploy everything from Slack, like redeploy this service, or like?
I think so. For instance, VictorOps, the alerting system we use, integrates very heavily with Slack. So we, you know, when we get alerts, we act them from within Slack. We also have obviously all of our GitHub PRs going through Slack, and so we can
everybody sees stuff.
Exactly, and we can LGTM them and merge them from Slack as well. But when it comes to things like deployments, maybe I have a different approach to this, because I don't have to manually deploy my software. When I've merged the PR into master, my scripts go away and deploy it for me. So I never have to trigger a deployment from Slack. They continuously deploy to my dev environment, to my like staging environment.
Yeah, that's like.
So the process of upgrading production, of migrating the newest changes to production, is still a manual step for me. But I wouldn't. My first instinct isn't to build a bot that automates that so I can type "please deploy to production" in Slack. My first instinct would be to look at a completely automated way of doing it. For instance, why not have a bot living in your cluster, monitoring your application using Prometheus, and then saying when it's served enough requests successfully, when I've seen 10,000 requests go past with no errors, I'll automatically just deploy it to production. then I don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what DevOps is. That's one of the aspects of DevOps, right? If you're having your developers do operational work as well, then treat the operational challenges as the same as development challenges. If you've got any repetitive task when you're writing code, you put a for loop around. You don't write the instruction 10 times. You just put a for loop around it, or you extract it into a function. Well, you should be treating your operational challenges the same way. If you're having to constantly click a button to deploy code, you know, if you're going to do some manual check where I go and look at my dashboard and I see that the code isn't behaving badly, and I see that it isn't using more resources, and then I go and click yes, well, this can be automated. You know, you could code that up into a nice general bot that goes and checks the request rate, goes and checks the resource usage, and then automatically deploys it. This doesn't have to be you know, a manual process. So I think ChatOps is good for the instant response. I think it's good for development practices around merging
starts,
PRs. Yeah, and especially like we treat all our infrastructure as code. I mentioned Terraform, and that all gets run through GitHub PRs as well. So anytime we want to deploy anything, GitHub PR, we merge that, and then it automatically goes away and deploys it for us.
I have I had my personal story once that we changed. First of all, initially we had our deployment system built like semi-automated. It was based on dep packages and updating instances. Over time, we moved to more or less proper Git flow with a testing environment facing the development branch and master branch facing the production. And it changed the way we operate, I would say, and think about code, because we were able to deploy, 10 times per day, 20 times per day. Have you had an experience with that? Like, what's your experience with that?
So,
did it change the communication somehow, or improve the team feedback loops?
I mean, that's the main thing I see continuous deployment, the main value it delivers, is by deploying so often, you tend to deploy a lot less at any given time. So your changes become a lot smaller. And smaller changes are less risky. And you validate them much quicker, because they, you know, instead of spending a month in development before the whole batch of thousands of changes gets deployed into production, each individual change is getting deployed, and if it breaks something, it breaks it for 5 minutes whilst you revert that change. You know, if you only release once a month and it breaks it, you've got to wait another month before you get the next release, and it's probably going to break it again. So yes, like those feedback loops enabled by things like continuous integration and continuous deployment are really important to moving quickly, especially as a small company. The only competitive advantage we have against the big guys is that we can potentially move faster than them. So I'm going to embrace any working practice and any technology that allows me to iterate quickly and respond to users. I think you mentioned Git flow. I recognize it's something that people do, and it seems quite popular, but it's never been something that I've actually been a big fan of.
Okay.
Why? And Google have discussed this publicly. Like, they run everything off master. Everything runs off head on the master branch. And that describes the state of the world. So this is exactly what we do. In our system, tip of the master branch describes exactly what should be running. So when we change the code, that gets deployed. We produce a new Docker image with the Docker image hash contains the Git char hash. And then we'll have files inside head that describe what version of the image should be in what environment. And then it's no use saying that, because it's very easy to say. And if you do that, great, but you'll find that you very quickly diverge. You know, somebody will go and manually apply a change and forget to commit the PR or something. So we also have jobs constantly sitting there every minute, every few minutes, using things like Terraform Plan to check that the state of the infrastructure matches what's checked in on the master, on the tip of the master branch. Using things like, we use Case on it, but you can use things like kubediff, a tool I developed when I was at Weaveworks, to check that your YAMLs and your Kubernetes config that you've got checked into your master branch always matches what's running. And so when we get alerts when they don't match, or for things like Kubernetes, we should never get an alert because we continuously deploy them. So if it does detect a difference, it just applies over the top of it. But for things like, we were using a tool called Ansible as well, and we had another Ansible diff job, which would sit there and every minute or two check the state of the cluster. You know, it's like turning Ansible into Puppet, but it works. And because everything always matches the master, tip of master, if, heaven forbid, something goes wrong and you accidentally delete everything, which I may have done after a Christmas party, it takes you 15 minutes to restore everything, because it's literally just up all your Terraform jobs, up all, run your Ansible config, bring up all the Kubernetes jobs, and the pods and so on, and then it's all there again.
Yeah.
And because you had these jobs checking that everything always matched all the time, you know that after that 15 minutes of downtime, everything's back to normal.
Yeah.
You don't have any suspicion in the back of your head, well, have I forgotten to apply this manual change that so-and-so did 3 days ago that hasn't been committed yet? Because we can't do that. That never exists. You just don't allow the world to get into that situation. And it's really powerful. It means you can move quickly.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom, for this interesting conversation about the company, the operational processes you have. Thanks, everyone over there, and see you later. Stay tuned. Bye.